Hello there, it's me, the Doge with some free time in quarantine. So basically it's that time again. November is coming near, December is not far away, and the faster the year could end, the better it is for all of us. Well, so like the next gen consoles are going to be released very soon, and there is a war on which is, better and which is the one that will win the console wars and all those stuff. All those arguments aside, the upcoming new hardware for everyone's gaming needs looks to be an interesting one, to be honest. Xbox Series S and X, I guess, wants to merge, the consoles and PC into a whole new ecosystem with the addition of Steam or Epic Games. That's basically like the rumors I heard, of course. But if it's actually true, then it will be a pretty amazing thing, to be honest. Imagine like having a PC platform on console of all things. I wonder what is PlayStation 5 is going to do about that. It seems like the time between consoles and PC might be on the verge of erasing themselves. Yeah, they're trying to, cross the line between like consoles and PCs are basically like two different things, and they're trying to, merge that two together. Also, their implementation of the Game Pass on every platform possible is really something that is actually interesting as well. Oh, of course, we cannot forget that the huge acquisition of ZeniMax Studios and even GameStop itself. It was pretty fascinating to see. And yeah, I'm actually betting that GameStop might actually, push the Xbox console more if they actually, just partner with Xbox alone and Sony didn't do anything. But who knows? Let's just see what will happen. And of course, now we're gonna talk about the PS5. It's just PS5. Now, I know there's a lot of good things about it, like, the how it looks and how it performs and how the loading speeds are actually much more faster than the Xbox Series X. But the thing is, I can't really see any reason at all to get one, to be honest. Like, I bet all those people who love exclusives from the Sony platform, I guess, then yeah, you can just buy it for those. But for me, I think, if most of the game announced were like, cross-platform to PS4, I bet a lot of those people who own a PS4 Pro or just a PS4 at all would probably have no incentive to buy a PS5 currently, because there's nothing much on it except for one Spider-Man game. Yeah, even that is not exactly a new game, to be honest. And Demon's Souls was, well, I guess it's also coming for the PC. Ooh, that's interesting. And the thing is, I think they are obvious that something has changed in the management side of things for Sony, and it's that because of the headquarters is currently in California, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be very obviously apparent, like, censoring anime games for no reasons other than because it's to protect the children, but I'm not sure why they are still doing that. And also, cutting some content from certain anime games because they are too not inappropriate, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But for me, I think it is just unfair for anime games for towards on the PS5 platform, because why would you do that? Like, at this point, I would rather play on Nintendo Switch because of all those censorship that's going on the PlayStation platform. And it's really going to be the most important point on many of the players from Japan, and probably a lot of players globally would just decide on which platform next. Because if they keep on doing all this virtual signaling and all this, social justice stuff, unfortunately, I think it's going to have some very detrimental problems for them, especially with the recent, support BLM move and this, having a wallpaper for people to use, I mean, that's a good thing, but how can you do that when you're also, against
Hong Kong.
protesters? Like, why? Like, I think that's a pretty weird, ironic situation for them. Like, the reason why they are actually kowtowing to the
Chinese government.
is pretty simple, because they want to sell their consoles on, the mainland. That's why they are doing that. But if you look at the facts, though, it's just pretty sad to see that Sony is actually doing that. Of course, I think that is actually mostly a Western perspective. A lot of people might not know this, but if you want to do any business with the Chinese, you had to adhere to their rules. There's no choice that you cannot run away from it. And basically, this is what's going on. I bet the management sides of things, they don't really want to do this, but they had to, because if not, I bet the people who allow them to sell these consoles in that region would not allow them if they don't adhere to these rules. That's why, I suppose. And think what you would think, but I think the PS5 is still a really solid console. Just that the price for the Blu-ray drive at differences is just ridiculous, I think. They might as well just sell a budget version in the future. I think that will be a much more popular sell than these two first generation ones, I guess. If you look at the whole console generations, you can see that they always release like a light version in the future. So yeah, I guess you should actually just wait for the much more streamlined or mini version of PS5. I think that would be much more worthy purchase, I think. And of course, looking at both consoles, seeing their pros and cons, for me at least, I'll still prefer PC. But this time, however, I'm just glad that they have made some strides, in implementing like something like a faster SSD that was literally on the main motherboard or something like that. At this point, in PC, the SSD is actually separated and you can actually replace them anytime. But for these consoles, they're basically integrating their SSDs in such a way that it's actually going to transfer very, very quickly the flow of data, so that games can load very, very quickly. And both of them has their own, innovations here and there on how they build their own consoles. But I'm not going to pick on that because I'm not an expert of all things. I think there's a lot of YouTube videos that explain about how the intricacies of the consoles are now. So yeah, you can just watch those. But for me, I'm just going to talk about, what kind of interesting things that I find out from this console generation, I suppose. And so I'm glad for the first time ever, to be honest, for consoles. Because usually, consoles don't really have anything innovative in them, because they are technically just selling, low-end budget PCs back then, especially in like the previous generation. But this time, at least they're doing something new. Bravo, bro. Bravo. Like, alright. But, the most important thing is that it is going to benefit everyone, regardless of what platform you play in. Like, especially, it's going to benefit the PC platform most. Yeah! Because why? Well, if the consoles have faster speeds of loading times, than the PC market definitely had to catch up somehow. And you're gonna see a lot of new hardware that is going to have the same speeds and stuff like that. And I'm actually very hopeful for that to happen. What I'm much more interested in is how Nvidia and AMD are currently doing the graphics. Despite the consoles, being of different builds, they actually both share the same technology within, provided by AMD's RDNA 2 architecture, which is actually quite a price and for how decent they perform. Of course, Nvidia also, recently reviewed their 3000 series, and they are probably the first ones to strike at the GPU market, of course, but I think they are also, pulling back a bit, because despite announcing the 3090, it's not exactly a Titan class card from what I've heard, It's more like a slight upgrade from the 3080 to make it such a way that, the performance is slightly or barely enough to play games in 4K 60. I think they probably is going to release like something that is much more powerful than the 3090. So you better hold on your wallets, because who knows what will happen when the AMD actually shows up at the doorstep and say like, oh, we have beaten all your GPU performance, bro. Like, what you gonna do? They definitely have their own secret plans ahead, of course. Now, AMD, I guess, a lot of people shouldn't brush them off, despite looking at their histories of how they have been doing. I know they are sort of underwhelming in the GPU department, but according to a lot of rumors and speculations and YouTubers who talks about, the AMD side of things, who are probably not biased against, Nvidia, they actually are very, very excited to see what AMD has for them, because you see, AMD has this, leaks. I'm not sure how they got all those leaks and informations from those graphic cards. But basically, it's just there is some informations are basically telling us that the AMD GPUs might be able to compete with even the 3080 or even the 3090. Like, wow, if that's the case, that will be pretty interesting to see. Like, imagine if both sides are competing endlessly just to get the best price and the best performance bang per buck, stuff like that. I hope that actually happens, because, no matter what happens and no matter who wins, the consumers would win from all this competition, because that is what a competition should look like. Each sides are trying to provide products that are almost or on the par with each other, with their own pros and cons, and trying to outlast the other opponents to see who will actually take the crown. I think that is the most important thing for all of us consumers here, because regardless of what they are putting out, we are going to have a lot of choices on what graphics cards that we wanted to pick as our next build, yeah. And I just hope that AMD is able to do exactly that, defeating Nvidia and actually, competing side by side to their graphics cards. Because if they are able to do that and keep a very, very competitive price, Nvidia is going to have a bad time. And I bet Nvidia has something up their sleeves, and they probably have a trump card hidden there that they can pull anytime. Believe me, I think it's going to happen. And of all that things said, however, we are really living in a time period that, despite how bad the pandemic is currently still hitting us all, the hardware scene is still somehow doing very well. And I hope it will continue to, bring the best out for everyone. At this point, I would still play games, and like on my current hardware, I'm actually still using my GTX 1060 6GB GPU, and I think it's enough for a lot of current gen titles. I think it's even enough to play Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes out. So yeah, I don't really feel like I want to upgrade my card at the moment. But you know what? Let's just wait and see. Am I right? As a budget gamer, and I'm always price conscious because I live in a third world country, I always just wait and see, and hopefully there is a graphics card that actually meets my criteria that I would prefer to upgrade to. Well, I would love to talk further on, but I think it's quite a lot already that I've been speaking about. So, as a normal person looking at how the industry is doing currently, I'm truly hopeful for the future. And, in the future, we have more choices in terms of the consumer hardwares on our gaming setups and our PC builds, especially on how modular PCs are. I'm still going to be on the PC side of things, despite, how cheap the consoles are. Thanks for listening. Good day for everybody who actually heard to this point. I'm gonna head out now.